Hey, greetings everyone. Leecon here again with another episode of Lore of Warcraft. On our last episode, we talked about the events that led to Thrall, or at first Orgrim and Thrall, and then eventually just Thrall, creating kind of the Horde as we know it now, and setting off, deciding we're going to just establish the Horde. We have a value of honor, and we're not just going to immediately start warring with the Alliance. Essentially setting us up for the events of, or the role that the Horde plays in Warcraft 3 and beyond. So stay a while and listen to this one. This is called the Alliance Splinters. You know that this has to be an important thing because a lot of things happen before we get, we need to get closer to the Alliance that we currently know it. Yeah, the dwarfs, the gnomes, the humans, and all humans are eventually combined into the Alliance, specifically the nation of Stormwind. Lordaeron, no. Lordaeron's going to have to go through a period of isolation because they're not part of the Alliance in the end. As well as the High Elves, well, they're going to need to become the Blood Elves and also be completely separated from the Alliance. So there's definitely some rifts that have to form. The destruction of the internment camps proved to be the tipping point for many among the Alliance of Lordaeron. Lady Katrana Prester made sure of it, speaking passionately to every person of noble birth she could reach. And if you remember, I think that is Onyxia. So she's still trying to manipulate like Deathwing was. The orcs had all escaped. The money spent to imprison them had been wasted. What was the point of this faltering alliance? The High Elves of Quel'Thalas were the first to leave the Alliance. The human nations of Gilneas and Stromgarde soon followed. They had always believed they were better off on their own, and the incompetence of Lordaeron only seemed to confirm it. Again, we know that the High Elves of Quel'Thalas will eventually become the Blood Elves, and then subsequently in the Burning Crusade join the Horde. We know that Gilneas will eventually, after being infected with the Curse of the Worgen, eventually will become... they will rejoin the Alliance in the Cataclysm expansion. Stromgarde will become defunct, not rejoin anyone, and will sort of fall into evil. They had always believed they were better off on their own, and the incompetence of Lordaeron only seemed to confirm it. King Genn Greymane of Gilneas had an idea to stop the Horde and any other enemies from threatening his kingdom ever again. His nation was on a peninsula and surrounded on most sides by water. He formally cut off all military pacts with the Alliance, and he built the massive Greymane Wall to isolate his kingdom. It was clear that he had no interest in aiding the other nations. Gilneas was self-sufficient, and it needed little in the way of food or resources from the rest of the Alliance. And you can see that wall intact and sealed off in the first few expansions, if you explore in the Silverpine Forest region. And it is now currently cracked open, and you can go in there to see a messed up Gilneas. Several kingdoms made it known that they had no intention of letting the Alliance collapse. King Varian Rin of Stormwind, King Ternus Menethil II of Lordaeron, the Kirin Tor of Dalaran, Grand Admiral Dalen Proudmoore of Kul'Tiras, King Magni Bronzebeard of Ironforge, and Gelban Mekatork of Nomergon all reaffirmed their commitment to unity against whatever trials would come. This did not please Lady Prester at all. She had hoped the Alliance would disintegrate. Now, again, if we want to analyze that a little bit, King Varian Rin of Stormwind, yes, that becomes the heart of the Alliance. King Ternus Menethil II of Lordaeron, now, I believe he dies, and I don't know if they leave the Alliance first, or if it is when they get afflicted by Arthas with the Curse of the Forsaken that causes them to not become, but either way, they become part of the Horde. The Kirin Tor of Dalaran eventually become neutral, not part of the Alliance. And so I'm sure there's a story there. And Kul'Tiras breaks off from the Alliance until much later, the BFA expansion, when they finally rejoin. Ironforge and Nomergon, they do stay. But if the nations would remain vigilant against external threats, Lady Prester decided to inflame internal conflict wherever she could. Her secret meddling in the rebuilding of Stormwind City had left the nobility unsatisfied with the craftsmanship of the Stonemasons Guild. Meanwhile, the workers were enraged that the nobility were threatening to withhold payment for honest labor. Lady Prester played both sides, encouraging them to dig in their heels and never compromise until the disagreements escalated into unrest. When the nobility announced that they would not be paying the Stonemasons Guild for their work, riots erupted. The Queen of Stormwind, Tiffin Rin, was killed during the chaos. Oh, that's messed up. So, Anduin's mom. King Varian Rin vowed to punish those responsible, and he cracked down hard on the rioters. The stonemasons fled the city and hid in the rural areas of Westfall until the situation settled down. Most of them had to stay in hiding, for they knew Varian's anger would never fade, which does explain this sort of counterculture vibe you get in Westfall, and where people like the Van Cleefs, which I see we're going to read in the next sentence. Their anger never vanished either. Led by a gifted mason named Edwin Van Cleef, and secretly supported by nobles like Lady Katrana Prester, they formed the Defius Brotherhood. This order of bandits would continue its armed rebellion against Stormwind for years, in fact, ad infinitum, because they're still going at it. Especially if you look at areas like, is it the Stockade? What is it? The Dead Mines. The Dead Mines. Okay, Tyrion Fordring and Eitrig. So these are two people, if you think about it. Tyrion Fordring is someone who is sort of tangentially on the Alliance, and Eitrig, we know, he's currently still part of the Horde, but he was that person that was the handler of Draka. No, not Draka. Garona. The news that the Horde had reformed had unexpected effects on human society. The initial reaction was fear, but those who encountered the orcs often reported that they were no longer the battle-hungry barbarians the Alliance had once fought. One of these voices was Tyrion Fordring, a paladin of the Silver Hand. He had encountered an old orc named Eitrig, and Tyrion believed that he was sincere in his desire to live in peace. Thus the paladin stood against the humans who sought to kill the orc. This was considered treason, and Tyrion was cast out of the Silver Hand for his crime. Despite this, Tyrion found he still had access to the Holy Light, and so he knew he had done the right thing. Eitrig would go on to join Thrall's new horde. Tyrion would live alone outside of human civilization for years. And yeah, he'll become one of the main lieutenants of Thrall. Meanwhile, Tyrion, I think, eventually becomes a Death Knight. Can't quite remember. All right, this episode in the Pipe 5x5. I look forward to seeing everybody next time on Lore of Warcraft. Thanks.